Corekeeper got a substantial update recently that adds a desert biome among other things, but even if it didn't do that, I'd still give it a giant recommend because after pouring even more hours into it, the progression and slow burn of amassing a town and self-sustaining village that I love continued to motivate me even after dozens of hours. The flip side to this is that spending so much time in this world magnified all of the little problems I had with this game. The progression is easily one of Corekeeper's biggest strengths though. Like Terraria, certain items and gear are locked behind major boss encounters and you'll have to face them to eventually make headway and see everything the game has to offer. Now, I personally had a ton of time sitting comfortably where I was in the main quest for a while and just working on my house, but once that started to get a bit stale, I'd fight some major bosses and unlock entirely new bells and whistles to reinvigorate my excitement for making the perfect settlement and home for my character. My house started off pretty prehistoric looking, but after unlocking electric items and wires, I was enthralled at even things you'd normally be bored at just because it meant the end result would be my house looking better. I tore up my floors and started setting up lamps everywhere, by the way, since they're just better looking than torches when indoors. Also, you can paint them. These fun new items extend to resource gathering too. I started off just mining for stuff as you'd expect, but fast forward and I'm making conveyor belts that stretch the entire world just to get ore back to my base. Was genuinely impressed that it renders all of this in real time, even when your character isn't there. Once I unlocked minecart rails, I sectioned off an entire area behind my house to make a rail station so I could quickly travel to all of the great resource gathering spots I had run into beforehand. I'm aware that a lot of the praise I've just levied at this game can be applied to other crafting games, but I think what separates Corekeeper from a lot of those is it pretty much never gets snagged on the small stuff. In a way, it's like the best parts of survival crafting coming together in one game, and all of the bad stuff being left out. Mining stuff feels painless, and the crafting itself almost never tasks you with finding some weird rare item that you've never seen before. It all just flows really well, and I think the developers deserve some praise for getting so many little details right. Though that last part isn't completely true because there will unfortunately be a fair amount of times when you're wrestling with your inventory just to keep all of your stuff, and even after upgrading my backpack multiple times, I'd still find this issue sneaking up on me eventually, one way or another. Also, while it is technically faster than walking, I'm reluctant to call the minecart rails fast travel since some routes I took in this thing, well, let me just show you. This is me starting at the game's main spawn point and traveling to a mid-game area. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I've gone off about progression and slowly moving towards automation as you get further in your playthrough, but unfortunately not all progression is made equal in this game. Given the means, players will do the less fun thing if it's more optimal to progression. I won't pretend to know the exact solution to this problem, but as of now, Corekeeper's grind to the top for a lot of its professions simply isn't fun. Like its positive traits, this isn't unique to this game, but seriously, after a while I actually started to dread walking by the area outside my house because I knew it would be optimal to farm all of my crops and then plant them again to level up my farming skill, a process that takes minutes. Future upgrades like a better watering can and even sprinklers make life a little easier, but it's still just a slog. There is something I could do in this video that would be insanely cruel, and that would be not covering the soundtrack, because wow, if this isn't some of the most atmospheric and enchanting music I've heard in a really long time. There were moments where I'd be playing while I was watching something on TV, and after faintly hearing the background track, I'd have to turn off whatever I was watching just to hear it fully. The music is a perfect encapsulation of the feeling you'll discover when playing across new areas in this game. For as amazing as Corekeeper is, I think it almost owes itself to live up to its soundtrack. That's genuinely how highly I regard some of this game's OST. It's certainly better than the combat, because unfortunately, as much as I enjoyed it when I first started playing, I can't say the same now. Positioning and attacks work well enough, and some enemies towards the middle and end game have neat abilities, like this crab that shoots bubbles, but for the most part it boils down to very similar actions from your character. Some of the bosses can give you a neat scare, like the slime that won't stop bouncing against the ground that I mentioned in my last video. Others, like Grom, require you to think outside the box and set up traps, but these interesting fights are the exception, not the rule. To bring it all back to what I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there was a new update added recently, the Desert of New Beginnings, and along with it, the titular go-karts, which sound amazing, though I'm worried they'll make the tons of rail carts I planted obsolete. That's not even mentioning the new crafting tier, tools, base building customization, decorative stuff, and bug catching that was also added. After hearing all of that, you might be thinking, wow, that sounds like a lot of stuff, but I feel it's worth reiterating that content-wise, Corekeeper can't currently keep up with its survival crafting older brothers like Terraria and Don't Starve. But given time and some tweaks to its major systems, I think this can really blossom into an amazing game that sits comfortably right next to the very best that Steam has to offer. If you love any game where you can chop down a tree, you owe it to yourself to give Corekeeper a glimpse.